Good evening, dear friends. Good evening, my beloved viewers, my kind people. Today, our topic is, as always, unusual, the universe of broken souls. Today, we will talk about souls, about the inner state of many people, about the processes that are taking place, and we will talk about how to adapt to these processes, to these planetary cosmic changes. We will talk about what the future holds for humanity, talk about how to help broken souls, and what does a broken soul mean. My friends, I would like to begin today's program with this phrase, a phrase predicted by many spiritual figures living here on the planet. A time will come when the blind will lead the blind, because no one listens to the sighted. Now that time has come, when the world truly goes mad, and most people truly cannot withstand this stress and horror of this life, and many, for various reasons, have truly become broken as souls. What happens at that moment when the soul loses itself? A process of connecting to a low frequency, a low vibrational frequency is occurring. After all, the soul is the light of God. The soul is the Creator Himself. It is a part of Him. And when this turning point occurs, when this shock to the soul occurs, the soul of every person suffers incredible torment, torment that tears at the soul, that tears it apart from within, that torments it so completely that it is impossible to even bear. Such people become mentally ill, but they don't understand this and don't understand everything that's happening to them. Remaining in this state for a long period of time, they even become accustomed to it, since they no longer remember their other state. For them, this broken state of aggression, depression, hatred, anger, it becomes habitual. And these people, withdrawing into themselves, live in their own world. There are now many such people on the planet, and they have truly created their own universe of broken souls. I want to tell you that in space, my friends, it's not only this planet that is experiencing certain difficulties. Other planets are also experiencing certain problems. We have talked about this many times, and there are many reasons. And the main reason is that the fallen control the circuits, thresholds, circuits through which energy flows, and this was the case until recently. And now a new time has come, a new state that is engaged in the rebirth of life, the creation of new life, a new era, a new civilization. But many people have not been able to step into this new world. Their souls are broken. They remain in the old world, remained in their aggression and anger, remained in their discontent, remained in their condemnation and hatred. These people and their souls are certainly in danger, my friends, and many people are asking themselves, why is this so? Why is this so, my friends? If you knew the laws of the cosmos, the structure of life and reality in general, cosmic reality, how complex it is and how incredibly difficult it is to reproduce, you would not be asking such a question. You would come to the conclusion, as I did, that every person needs to care for their soul, their life, their bodies, their minds, their development, and then such people will be fine and they won't fear any changes, any alterations, or even any upheavals. The soul of these people will always be safe, because they will be under the higher powers of light. They will always be protected by the higher spiritual powers, the highest divine hierarchy. On this planet, my friends, there are three very serious planetary commissions. One led by Metatron, the second by Michael, and the third by Melchizedek. All three of these commissions are currently participating in very serious, active processes of world transformation, of world change. They began to control certain funnels, channels through which a new quantum wave, a new frequency, and new code programs flow, encoding the consciousness of many people. This energy enters the consciousness, the mind, through the seventh crown chakra into the head of each person, into each person. But each person reacts to these new codes for the birth of a new civilization, a new, more developed conscious humanity. Each person reacts differently, and each reaction depends on their inner preparation. How ready is a person for today's life? How ready is a person for this difficult time? How ready is a person to change, to be reborn? How ready are they to work on themselves, to work on their mistakes, to develop new willpower within themselves, to reveal the knowledge, the grandeur of those great divine mysteries that are transmitted to the planet through these light codes? Of course, the cosmos contributes to this, and many scientists speak of this. They say the world has changed and the planet has already entered the fourth dimension, but many people remain in the old world. These people in the old world cannot step into the new world, and as the old world contracts, so does their consciousness. But contraction occurs in a state of compression, and when consciousness contracts, the soul experiences painful torment, which leads most people to illness and mental deterioration. I have just outlined for you the reasons for everything that is happening, part of the reasons for everything that is happening. Of course, my friends, every person, when they incarnate here, is given the experience and the events that are already organized, which must develop the soul in this life, this time in this incarnation. Give it the experience and acquire the experience it needs for its own development. But not everyone can overcome these difficulties and complexities. Unfortunately, the human soul develops only when it experiences life and reality in a comparative way. But not everyone can live through and overcome their own difficulties. Only one person can overcome them: the person who trusts God, the person who knows they are protected by higher powers, the person who is in alignment with the divine principle. And even if some difficulty arises, a complexity that is again necessary and essential for the soul's development, a person can easily overcome it, even when faced with a particular situation and not knowing how to find a way out. They turn to the Creator and say, "Father of my soul, let your will be done. I place this situation in your hands. Resolve this as you wish." But this only happens to those who have trust in God, trust in the Creator, trust in the higher intelligence. Only then, my friends, is it possible to have these pure, kind, and open relationships with God, with the Creator. But most people, as they say, are atheists, and we don't believe, and what if we have seen Him? We have not seen Him, so we don't believe in Him. Although each of these people sees God, they see it because everything that exists is Him. It is His energy. He is the energy from which everything is created. Therefore, each of us, every doubting Thomas, every atheist, sees God. But they are undeveloped and don't even understand how they see God or what a higher intelligence, a creator, or God means. My friends, we are now witnessing processes on the planet where the psyche of many people has no longer been able to withstand them. They have remained in the old world. Sometimes you write very often asking this question: what does it mean to remain in the old world? What does it mean to enter a new world in the fourth dimension? Although I want to tell you that certain energy informational channels have already opened in the form of vortices, energy vortices called vertexes. Vertexes are column Channels and programs are encoded through these channels. Where people's consciousness opens up, a transition is immediately revealed not only to the fourth dimension, but also to the fifth dimension, the sixth dimension, and even the seventh dimension. But some were unable to transition to the fourth. The fourth dimension will be a long, drawn out transition for this planet. And the planet itself and many people who will transition to the fourth dimension now will develop for a long time in this more expanded fourth dimension. What does it mean to transition or not to transition? Your consciousness, my friends, is transitioning, but along with your consciousness, changes occur even in your physical organism, even in the physical material plane of your life. So you already know, yes, the observer method, Jung's experiment, which proves that it is the observer, the viewer, who looks at the waves, who transforms these waves into particles through their vision. You already know this, so when a person looks at the world through third-dimensional eyes, through old habits, old dogmas, old destructive habits, they are stuck in the old world. And this person, through their vision and state, reproduces internal mutations within themselves. What kind? They shrink, well, you could say they dry up energetically. The life energy, the high vibrational energy, stops flowing within them. They don't master these high vibrations. High vibrations have entered the planet, but it does not interact with them, and it starts from the energy it lacks. This means that such a person who has not transitioned to the fourth dimension has a soul that is susceptible to this suffering and destruction, and there are many such people on earth now. Their souls are truly broken, and since there are indeed many of them, they have created their own world, their own universe, their own state, where they find each other, where they understand each other in their old beliefs, in their backward inner consciousness. And of course, such people will very soon leave this world and very soon complete their evolution on this planet. They are living out their last lives. Their souls will not be able to enter a new world and be reborn, because a new world will be, at a minimum, a very compressed state, the fourth dimension. Although in the fourth dimension, among you who have transitioned to a new life in the new world, there will also be those who, with their consciousness, will shape the reality of the fifth, sixth, and seventh dimension. What kind of people are these? They are positive, kind, spiritual people, people who are developing, and their consciousness will reach the level of the seventh dimension, or the sixth, or the fifth, or the fourth. And these are people who will create themselves and the world around them. These are positive people. Yes, they will live among you in the fourth dimension on the physical life. Then, when they leave the physical life, they will go to the dimension to which they correspond. But even living here among you in the fourth dimension, their consciousness will be spiritual, pure, divine. These people will be open, they will be merciful and kind to each other. They will see God in everyone. They will see light and will radiate this light to others. Entering a room, an apartment, a house, any space, these people will illuminate others with their light. This is what it means to move into the seventh or the sixth dimension. The seventh is the highest dimension here on earth. The sixth, seventh dimension, that's what it means to transcend your consciousness, your thoughts, your beliefs, your level of knowledge, the knowledge you acquire. After all, where is the highest knowledge stored? In the highest cells of the seventh dimension. And when a person possesses this knowledge and uses it, it means they have already transcended directly into this seventh dimension. They interact with the seventh dimensional coding programs. They live within these programs. Their consciousness operates within these programs. Their cells interact with the genes of these programs. So they've transcended into the seventh dimension, or sixth, or the fifth, or even the fourth. Let me return, my friends, to the state of broken souls. I've often and today I recalled this situation from my life. Foreseeing and knowing what will happen now, what we are experiencing now, my eldest daughter once approached me. We were talking and she asked me about the future of the planet, about all the events taking place. And I told her that the most difficult problem won't even be the wars that are happening now in different countries of the world, or even the catastrophes that will also arise in different parts of the planet, or even that. And she asks, so what? And I tell her that the most serious problem on earth will be the madness of many people. But the most important thing is that these people won't understand their madness. Their souls truly are broken souls, and such people will be the majority. And my daughter looks at me with such astonishment in her eyes and asked me, Mom, how will we live among these people? Well, I lowered my head and said regretfully, Well, we will adapt somehow. I remember that day. I remember how we talked about this many years ago, and now we are living in that period, in that time. It was long ago, many years ago, and now that time has arrived, and these broken souls are truly blind, blinded, and they are leading the same blind people along with them, because no one listens to sighted people like us. And I see my students, we often work on courses expressing their opinions. They say they understand the complexity of the times. They say we need to tell people about this, we need to tap into their souls, into their consciousness, and they do everything they can. They post information, they want to consult people, they want to help people sincerely, selflessly, with all their hearts. But do you know how they say? They say they don't listen to us, they don't need it, they are not interested. These are broken souls, my friends. These are people who could not move into the fourth dimension. They remained there. They remained in the past. They remained in their old world, which is folding, dying, and they are dying with it. What will become of these poor, unfortunate, exhausted, tormented, broken souls? Of course, my friends, they will not be able to be born again on this earth. They will be transported to other planets where life will only just begin to emerge and will begin its evolution from some dense substance, a stone or some primitive life form like a sponge or a worm. They will start all over again, and they will expand their consciousness through pain, suffering, difficulties, and hardships. And perhaps one day they will again attain the level of the life they so easily lost. Indeed, my friends, if we look at humanity now, humanity has already passed halfway through its evolutionary path, which is an enormous number of incarnations, each having lived over 500. It's not easy, it's very difficult, because each incarnation brings not only joy in life, but also a great deal of pain, suffering, and problems. All this is so that the soul understands life, grasps the knowledge it stores within itself, and understands it only when it experiences it firsthand. Therefore, pain and suffering at the beginning of life are necessary aspects for the soul's development. And imagine, many souls have already experienced this. They've experienced it repeatedly. They've reached this level, the level of quantum changes, the level where new life is born. And they were not born just like that, but precisely at this time. Imagine how no coincidence played out for them, how their parents, situations, events, and sequence of events were chosen to give them this incarnation, to give them perhaps one last opportunity, the chance to develop their soul, to step into the fourth dimension and continue their evolution. But they rejected it. Why? I think about this a lot and will share my impressions, my opinion. Do you know when this destruction of these souls happened? This happened when democracy came to the planet, when people were supposedly given this false, imaginary freedom and permissiveness, allowed to do whatever they wanted. And from that very moment, many people wanted, you know what? Pleasure. They were ready to do anything for pleasure, and they were allowed these pleasures. And no one even sent anyone to prison for these pleasures. No one could even punish them for these pleasures. That is, they were allowed these pleasures, but humans, at their core, have an animal programming and an animal state. And even now, many people have a much stronger than spiritual state. And at one point, this animal state is activated in such a person, and at that moment, the soul can truly break, my friends. Their thirst for profit, their thirst for pleasure, their thirst, as many say, to relax. Well, how do I need to drink 100 grams of alcohol? Well, of course, I need to relax. That's it. How they say usually. My students don't stress out, so there is no need to relax. You always need to be in the right, even, calm, relaxed state and mindful. Understand what you are thinking, what you are doing, who are you. You are human, after all. You have to control that. You are not an animal anymore. And if you are an animal, then sure, you can eat, sleep, reproduce, drink, steal, go to jail, and so on. Romantic stuff. And it was precisely at this moment of permissiveness, that many people broke their souls. They thought everything was so easy now, so serene, and they could do whatever they wanted. But no, my friends, you have to take responsibility for everything, and each of these people already bears responsibility and will continue to bear responsibility. Such are the laws of the cosmos, and it does not matter that a person does not believe in it. They still live by these laws, and these laws extend to their soul and their personal state. These, my friends, are the reasons why we have what we have now. A small number of people, at the right time, took up self-development and the expansion of their consciousness, a very small number of people. And now this small number of people in search. These are people who have already stepped into the fourth dimension. They are already living in the fourth dimension of life, and their souls are not broken. Their minds are balanced, calm. They are always self-aware. They understand what they are doing, what they are thinking, what the results of their choices, their thoughts, and their decisions will be. I want you to understand, my friends, that these broken souls are in such a painful and destructive state that they are constantly searching for a way out of these compressed internal states, and their internal spiritual compression even causes them emotional pain. They feel an ache in their chest, and they say that it is their chest that hurts, their soul. And this pain indicates that the soul is already broken, it's already sick, it's already undergone certain processes of very serious destruction. We once talked about how these souls end up in a prison, a matrix prison, and the matrix prison continues to use the destructive energy of these souls. But this does not make things any easier for the souls. It makes them even worse, because they understand there is no longer any way to escape this horror, these networks. When a person is incarnated here on earth, they have options, they have opportunities, they have chances, and it's good when a person understands this and takes advantage of these opportunities. But if they don't understand this, and there are many such people now, truly, my friends, we see mentally ill people everywhere. They are everywhere, even in governing bodies, in government organizations that should serve as examples, serving as role models for humanity. They are everywhere, my friends. These people lead many professions, very important positions, very important structures, although they no longer understand their own mental destruction. I understand that now is the time when these broken souls, for various reasons, will leave this world. Therefore, we must expect very serious planetary changes in the next couple of years, very serious destruction, very serious upheavals for humanity. All this is so that those who are twisted cannot step into a new world and a new state. They reject it, and having rejected the new, they find themselves back in the old where they were. I am ready for your questions. I want you to ask me the questions that will be most important and meaningful to you. I promise, of course, to give you advice and recommendations on how to behave in a family with mentally ill people. There are many such people in families now, many more than ever. But some understand their condition and their relatives understand, others do not, and in some families the parents have become ill, the children have become mentally ill, and their grandchildren are also being born with certain disabilities, autism, and so on. And we see how difficult the situation on Earth, on our planet, has become. I'm very sorry, I'm very sad that this is how it is, very sad that this is how it is. But my conscience is clear. I do everything I can for humanity. But I understand that I cannot impose my will or the will of the Creator. Only a person can choose it for themselves, and this should be their own decision. I am ready for your questions. Good evening. I hope you can hear me. I will read the questions. Любовь asks the first question. If Lucifer had not betrayed God, might there have been no broken souls here? Would the earth have developed along a positive path? This was not our choice. So are we simply unlucky? No, Lucifer committed a rebellion, and this offense, this vice, lies with him. But you live in present days, and there are kind and spiritual people among you. Why don't people choose this path? A person always has a choice, and even if Lucifer did not rebel, you still can pursue the goal of developing your soul. Difficulties and problems existed even before Lucifer's rebellion. They were there. Why? Because human animal nature has determined that our soul develops through difficulties. Of course, there wouldn't have been such vicious difficulties, and of course, if not for Lucifer's rebellion, by this time you would all have been prepared for the epochal process of evolution, and of course, people would have lived in these spiritual vibrations. Everyone would have been spiritual, they would have already developed it within themselves, and Lucifer's rebellion set civilization back many eons, but still, just as then, so now people make choices. And then what? Look, of the 619 inhabited worlds in the local system, only 37 fell. All the other planets, almost 600, remained faithful and devoted to the Creator. Why did people on this planet follow Lucifer? Where was their consciousness? Where was their inner state? Yes, no one absolves Lucifer of guilt and responsibility, but every person must also understand their own responsibility. How did he end up in all these matrices of fallenness? After all, knowledge has always been on earth, always. In the time of Lucifer, knowledge was on earth, and it exists today, and 100 years ago, knowledge existed on earth. Knowledge is on scrolls, written on walls everywhere, drawn, created, and conveyed. There are many people who receive information from above, although many are not quite like that. That is, the divine hierarchy, the corpse of destiny, consisting of three highly developed spiritual groups of individuals, beings. They do everything to ensure that knowledge exists. And how do they impart knowledge? Through the spiritualized minds of people. What does spiritualized minds mean? When there is a demand to understand who is the creator, who am I, how is life structured, how do my cells work within me, how did consciousness appear in my cells, what is my consciousness, and can I learn to control my consciousness, and can I learn to control the consciousness of my cells, and can I even reprogram my DNA and activate other, more essential, active genes for my evolution? Such questions. So, if someone asks such questions, do you think they just pop up? No, my friends. It's the planetary commission of spiritual beings, certain highly evolved beings who send such thoughts to people through the thought adjuster, the voice of God within each of you, so that these thoughts will spark their interest. But it turns out they can only send such thoughts to people who are at least slightly inclined, at least a little pure of soul, and at least a little interested in them. They have no right to impose them. They only send such thoughts and such an inquiry and a desire to understand when they see that a person is ready to hear them. After all, these thoughts have been sent to many, but many people don't hear them. They live in matter, in the desire for gain, and so on. They are distracted by material aspects. Yet the Creator and this commission of highly evolved beings work tirelessly. They do everything to send these thoughts to people, to spark interest in development, in learning, to spark interest and a strong-willed impulse to do many things. But many people think, I'll go listen, I'll go let someone tell me. No, my friends, you need to apply your own efforts to change, to the processes of change. The time has come not just to listen to our broadcasts, the time has come to change. And who among you knows how? Do you have sacred methods? Do you have light codes that can change you? You have none of that, and simply giving this to everyone on live broadcasts is forbidden. It can't be done. It's dangerous for many people. This can only be given to prepared people. Therefore, I must first prepare you for these great secrets and great revelations and great work, and only then reveal it to you. Therefore, my friends, do not shirk your responsibility. Next question. The next question. There are a lot of questions here today, and I am working on them. Lupov asks such an interesting question. If we have managed to overcome negative thoughts, what should we do with our minds? Constantly thank the universe and send love to everyone? You can do that, but it's not enough. When you truly learn to control yourself and monitor your thoughts, a process of expanding your consciousness occurs within you. What causes this? Pure creative thoughts begin to appear in your head. These are the thoughts I just voiced to you, and you become interested in everything, bombarding me with your questions. It's like in our courses. Someone will ask one question, and I'll take a long time to answer because I can see what other people are asking. Because the questions aren't simple, they are very profound. So, who's asking me these questions? You? No, my friends, it's your consciousness connected to a higher spiritual power that's interested, it's expanding thanks to my answers and the knowledge you hear. The next question. The next question, Victor from Dnipro asks, Natalia Vladimirovna, does it mean that the experiment conducted on our planet was unsuccessful and we have not achieved any results since we've become a planet of broken souls? We have not, my friends, we have not. Well, the planet itself is, by its status, a decimal experimental one, since it's far away, since the fall also occurred, and souls undergo their own specific experiments here. And every era, at the end of each era, a certain, well, you've probably heard, resurrection occurs, a planetary resurrection, where highly evolved beings reside, remove souls and bodies, the subtle bodies of people, and transfer them to other, more advanced planets, where these souls appear as if they had undergone the experiment. Souls that, through their experiment, were able to evolve, ascend higher, and are now ready to live in a state of eternal life. That is, they move on to developed worlds and planets. And so, my friends, right now we are awaiting this process. It should soon take place within the next decade. This planetary resurrection must take place, and souls will be removed from the planet. People who can continue their evolution, they deserve it in the mentioned worlds. But nevertheless, people will remain, those who are capable of development will be retained. That is, whoever has the potential for development and spiritual beings, seeing your needs, seeing you as you are, determine your state, will either be left behind, or some will perhaps fall into disintegration, broken souls, who will not be able to recover here because the new world is a new state, meaning they must start all over again. Well, my friends, we are now living in a time that has not existed for many hundreds of years, several thousand years. And you see how it was not for nothing that you were born, and it is not for nothing that you are studying, learning, asking these questions, developing. It's all for a reason. So your souls, when they incarnated this time in this life, already understood whether they would ultimately achieve the desired state and continue to live, or whether, due to certain reasons and errors in the mental consciousness, the mental activity of each person, the soul would not be able to do so. So, this is how it is, friends. Next question. The next question from Elena from Greece asks, is the idea of being born with a shirt on, is this a folk belief or something sacred? And does the soul take this shirt with it when it leaves this world? Well, a shirt is an image, my friends, a figurative expression. What does this image mean? This phrase. It means that the child was born under very serious protection. Naturally, it will take it with them. They have earned this protection. Do you think protection is simply given to everyone? Protection of the soul of a small person, of an adult, is only given to those souls, to those people who deserve it. In life, in the cosmos, everyone knows that before you can have anything, you have to earn it. That's the golden rule, rule number one. Everything you want must be earned, and divine protection must also be earned. Next question. Natalia from Italy asks, Natalia Vladimirovna, what law will prevail on Earth after the quantum transition in 2034 or 2036? The law of create and thrive. The law of unity, the law of friendship, the law of mutual understanding, the law of mutual assistance, the law where everyone is for everyone and everyone is for one. In other words, everyone will live in unity, my friends. And a little further down the line, after a few epochs, the planet will rise even higher and reach an even higher level, where people will live without locks or bars on the windows, because there will be no one to steal. Everyone will be so conscious, so hardworking, so driven, so determined and strong-willed that they will learn to live as one united family, just as everyone lives in space. And only then will wars cease to destroy this world. After the quantum transition, there will be one problem. Few people will remain, but life will become much better and easier thanks to high technology and the help of highly evolved spiritual beings who will assist you in everything. Olga asks the next question. Please tell me, during the rebellion, a third of the angels became fallen. How do they come to the realization of their fall, and how do they correct their mistakes? Can this experience be considered evolution? Yes, this experience can be considered evolution, friends. How do they achieve this? Through pain and suffering. Their nature is dismantled to a low state, to a human state, to a primitive human state. What determines this dismantling and the state of dismantling? The consciousness to which a person has fallen, that is, to what level they have sunk. They have sunk in their emotions. Now, my friends, forgive me, I'm being a bit blunt. It is from that level to which a person has fallen that they begin their further evolution. And depending on the level of consciousness with which they can already incarnate, that consciousness is incarnated, implanted, and the person begins again. They are given a human life, and through living a human life, they experience pain, suffering, difficulties, making mistakes, and understanding these mistakes. At first, they don't even know they are a fallen being. They don't know it at first. They are not told this at first, and this information is not revealed. Such a being can live simply as a human being among people, have families, and possess whatever they have, but they may not even know it. And only then, when they finally achieve their perfection and correct all their mistakes through acquired experience, perseverance, determination, and love, if it awakens within them, only then, perhaps before departing for more developed worlds and abodes, is the truth about themselves revealed to them, who they were and how they endured this fall. This is how Elizabeth H., in her book Initiation, revealed it to her when she was ready. Before this initiation, she lived many very difficult lives, and back then, this information about who she was and how she fell was not revealed to her. It was only when she had already decided to seek spiritual enlightenment again. Read a very good book by Elizabeth H., and the book is called Initiation. The next question is quite general. There are simply so many questions on this topic about how to understand whether you've made the transition or not. What criteria could there be, or how to understand? People don't understand this. Yes, everything is clear here, my friends, and I'll tell you now, and it will be clear to you too. When a person has undergone a quantum transition, well, stepped into a new dimension, the fourth dimension, the first thing that happens is they become more energetic. That's the first indicator. They have more strength, they become more energetic, more active, more forward-looking, more proactive. They have many undertakings, many accomplishments, that is, and inside they feel as if they've just begun to live or have just begun to live. These people begin to restore their health. The first indicator is the ability to restore it, because health is an indicator of the transition, whether a person has transitioned or not. If a person is deeply ill, naturally, they have not transitioned. Their illness stems from the low vibrations of the collapsing third dimension. When a person has transitioned to the fourth dimension, they begin to recover, restore themselves, and find methods, opportunities, people who help them, practices, and techniques. And these people who had transitioned to the fourth dimension ask the question, what is this fourth dimension? How can I know whether I have transitioned or not? How can I feel it? If a person has a stronger, healthier inner state and asks this question, it means they are already in this transition process. They are already moving into a new dimension. And their very requests testify to this. They want to understand, they want to know whether they have succeeded or not. What are the indicators? What are the symptoms? The symptoms of the fourth dimension? First, people who have moved into the fourth dimension have become hypersensitive to absolutely everything. To everything. They have sensitive hair, they sensitive to smells, to people, to souls, sensitive to situations, to the weather, to electromagnetic radiation. They've become extremely sensitive to everything. If you are sensitive, then you are already in the fourth dimension, and you need to gradually tune into the vibrations. You only developed sensitivity because you are already living in the vibrations of the fourth dimension, which activated your sensitivity. But that's not enough for you. People who have crossed into the fourth dimension, into the fifth dimension, develop a thirst for the development of extrasensory perception. They want to learn how to control matter, they want to understand how it works, they want to learn how to translate their thoughts into reality, to create their own realities. In other words, the mundane 8 to 5 jobs no longer interest them. Although they may go to work, they spend their free time uncovering great secrets. These are people who have already crossed over into the fourth and perhaps even the fifth dimension. How can you tell whether you are in the fourth dimension or the fifth? When a person's extrasensory perception is just beginning to develop, that fourth dimension, when a person already possesses extrasensory abilities and uses them for good, because there are so many old men and women who read cards, tarot cards, and predict things, who look in the wrong places. These are people who, well, you might call them charlatans, using that one very unflattering word. But that's the truth, my friends. They have not crossed over into any dimension at all. They know they are deceiving people and they know they'll have to answer for it. And it even gnaws at them, and they might even feel pain and discomfort. Well, for now, that's how it is. When someone develops extrasensory perception, it's a completely different sensation. It's an inner certainty where you are not deluding yourself or convincing yourself, but you clearly know that this is how it is. This is how it is, and there is no other way. Or if it's not this way, then it could be like this. And so, these are the positions because reality for each person has many different realities, and a psychic always sees which reality is closest to a person. We'll host a program about extrasensory perception someday, and I'll tell you so many secrets there, so many nuances, so many different states that you need to understand. So, a good psychic, a psychic who sees information, already lives in the fifth or sixth or even seventh dimension. Spiritual teachers live in the seventh dimension. Those people among you who receive information directly from a direct source, a pure source. That is, they don't necessarily need to read books, even if they read some books. For them, it's like tuning into some information field, where after reading a phrase, they instantly understand much more and much more broadly than what's written in the book. Therefore, the certainty of which dimension you are in correlates with each person's inner state. That is, what are you capable of? What are you ready for? Whatever you are at this moment, that's the dimension in which you live. After all, the fifth, sixth, and fourth dimensions that the planet traverses are a state of waves, a person's reading of the waves of this dimension. A person can read the waves of the fifth, sixth, and seventh dimensions only if they themselves correspond to these waves, to this frequency. if their brain is tuned to this frequency and can perceive it, process it, and output it as information. My friends, these are all very serious matters, very serious indeed. If someone somewhere is looking at someone somewhere, there is no other way to describe it, how this charlatan works. It's funny to look at such people, and how they are not ashamed of themselves is frankly incomprehensible. Well, okay, my friends, it does not matter. Your next question. The next interesting question comes from Maria from Germany. Is Lucifer solely a dark force, or does he have a light side? Of course, he has a light side, but his light force remained unmanifested. Although initially, when he was given the local system of planets and the process of managing and developing this local system, Lucifer's light side manifested, while the dark side remained unmanifested. Then, during a certain process of his evolution, since the planet is remote, this was another reason for Lucifer's rebellion, by the way, because Lucifer's rebellion was the third, having previously experienced two very serious rebellions. He saw how other worlds, planets, and constellations fell. The constellation Ursa Major fell, and many planets in Ursa Major and Ursa Minor fell. And there are still another constellation, and there are other planets that are also fallen. So these rebellions caused a certain amount of destruction, and Lucifer, looking at their experience, also decided that they had made some mistakes, but I'm smart, literate, I know I'll build everything differently, and the entire local system will quickly become developed. I'll be the absolute ruler. After all, this is my universe, my local system. I will rule. I was appointed to develop it. These were his thoughts. So I'll manage it and do whatever I want, implement my laws as the governing authority, and lead the process of evolution and development in my own way. Although, my friends, such things are not allowed in the cosmos. When a ruler is appointed to a local system or universe, that ruler necessarily obeys the laws and orders of the Father, the Creator. And God, the Creator, also has assistants, copies of Himself, who directly administer orders. That is, they give the best orders for the development of local systems, planets, solar systems, and galaxies. And every being, every government, authority must listen to their advice and recommendations. Why? Because they are more perfect. They are representatives of God. They are God. They are the hands of God. They are more perfect than even Lanandodek Lucifer, who was entrusted with the local system called Satania. That's how it is, my friends. I want you to understand. I've just told you this simply. There are so many nuances, but what if I tell you that in addition to the Luciferian rebellion, when this rebellion actually occurred, other fallen beings also intervened who had also previously launched their own rebellions. That's how it is. And there are still planets that those previous rebellions failed to overcome, and now some of them have reached a higher technological level. For example, the planet Draconis has reached a certain level of high technology. They fly to planets like this one and establish their own laws, consider themselves rulers here, and create races here, and interfere with the human genetic code. The human genetic code, genes, DNA. That's how it is. But very soon this will be over, and thank God, my friends. Next question. The next question is so sad. Well, I guess we need to help. Raisa asks, "Oh, I'm sorry, Rita. Today we suffered a terrible blow. The eldest granddaughter 19 years old, hanged herself in her father's family. What should we do? How can we pray to Seraphim, the guardian seraphim of her soul, to help her soul be born again on earth? I feel your pain and offer my condolences and compassion. Please message me now with the girl's name and date of her birth. I can help. At least I can reach her soul, because this didn't just happen without any reason. Something must have been wrong with her soul. These poor young people, the fallen system always work not so much with older people, but the system usually works most with young people, specifically through young people because their minds are young and intelligence is not yet mature. They seek the truth, they seek true knowledge, but they don't know where the real truth is, where the truth is. They don't know that yet, so many of them are mistaken. And I've just encountered this. We have our own school, we work on child development, and sometimes children come who are already 13 or 14 years old, and their psyches are already in the process of being broken. A student of mine asks me, why shouldn't a girl love a girl? Why? It's all done at school, it's fashionable. A boy loves a boy and a girl loves a girl. And I explain to the child that this leads to the generation, that it's deliberately introduced for the generation of humanity, for the destruction of humanity, where people destroy themselves with their own hands. But the child can't understand this. And time passed, we started with this wonderful girl, and now her worldview has changed. I was able to help her, but she met me at the right time. Do you understand? Now you also need to meet someone at the right time who can help your soul. Of course, it's bad that this happened to the girl. It's clear that there are certain very serious reasons. I can even see what those reasons are now. Pray for her now, especially during these first 3 days. 3 days, 9 days, because the processes of decay and transition to a subtle state are happening much faster now. Pray for her and tell her to ask God for forgiveness for her misdeed. She made a mistake. She rejected life. The most precious thing for everyone is life, and she rejected it. Talk to her. She hears you, because when a person leaves the body, they must go somewhere and they undergo transformations they don't fully understand. But yes, she may not fully understand them either, since she did this to herself. But nevertheless, reach out to her consciousness, send her love, love, love. Love is the most powerful vibration that can break through her unconsciousness. She did it unconsciously. A person would never do this in consciousness. It was only an unconscious state. And I will work with her soul. I will do everything I can for this soul, so that it will be born again and born into a new, wonderful, good world. I will do everything, everything I can. I will do everything for her. And if you have any information about the girl, be sure to write to Sergei Arkadьевич. I'll also tell you what information is relevant to you. Maybe she wants to tell you something, pass on something, or somehow reassure you. Of course, she wants to reassure you because she understands what she has done now. She understands how you are suffering now, and nothing can be done to bring you back, of course, so accept this situation. It's very sad, very sorrowful, but life does not end here, especially since she is a young girl. I think she'll still have life and even will have life soon. You know what else I want to tell you? We are now living in very difficult times, and sometimes souls, seeing what they are about to experience in the near future, understand that this could be dangerous for them, and they understand that they are not quite ready to endure these difficulties of the near future. These souls understand that they could fall very seriously, so they choose an early death now, at any early age, in order to preserve their state, not a fallen one, but a desired state, and then, with this desired state, arrive in a new world after the quantum transition, a new dimension, a new state of life. I have begun to notice, my friends, such cases and situations very often lately. And when I look at why a soul departed this life, what the reason is often precisely this: the soul is unsure of its ability to overcome the upcoming upheavals, sufferings, and catastrophes, so the soul knows everything. It knows it will be involved in some difficult process. So, in order not to break down and fall, they leave this world and are then reborn 4, 5, 10, or 15 years later and immediately quickly go into a new incarnation. Next question.
Следующий вопрос
Raisa asks the next
Раиса
question.
задает.
Where have all the
Даже делись
teachings
все
about
учения
karma
о
gone?
карме, о
About
том, что
those who
ушедшие
have
в инор
passed
мир
on to the other
пришли
world
здесь и
being
так далее.
nearby, here,
Каждое
and so
учение
on.
говорит о
Each
своей
teaching
правильной
speaks of
дороге.
its own
Иди и
correct
прими
path,
это все.
but everyone
А все
around you
вокруг как жили, так и
continues to
живут.
live as they once did. No, dear Raisa, not everyone continues to live as they once did. Many people no longer live that way. Many have discovered a new life. People have begun to see the world with different eyes. Many people are creating their own lives. And do you know how many people have become happier? If only you knew. They say so. We have two lives: the life before we met you and the life after we met you. No, you are wrong. Many have begun to live differently, and I see now how many people have begun to awaken. They have begun to understand life, and teachings and knowledge have always been there, my friends. Take the Bible, for example. There is some knowledge there, just a little, but there is knowledge. Take the Urantia book, a wonderful book. It's a modern Bible for a new era, a new time, and it's also knowledge. Read the book Initiation by Elizabeth H., and there is also knowledge there. Read the Quran or the Torah. They also contain knowledge, my friends. Or read the book of Revelation, too. There is knowledge there. Only an awakening soul can understand and see this knowledge, and one must prepare for it. How? You need to lead a healthy lifestyle, you need to eat right, you need to cleanse your body regularly, you need to take care of yourself. You don't just pick up a book and read it and understand everything. No. To understand, you need to expand your consciousness, and consciousness expands only when you're at least healthy and at most full of strength, vigor, and health. That's why so many people have met their teachers, people who have embarked on the right path, and they've changed their lives. Yes, they don't shout about it, they don't, well, brag about it. They live their modest, beautiful, pure lives and do everything they can to help as many people as possible learn to live the same way. I received a
Пришло
message.
сообщение
My granddaughter's name is
дочку зовут
Alexandra,
Александра.
Rita said.
Через
She's
неделю
about to turn
исполнится
19 in
было
a week. She
19
was
лет,
born in
рождена в 2005 году.
2005. Well, I've answered your question. Look, when a soul dies a month, 2, 3, or even just a few days before their birth, it means the soul has chosen this path, this process. It's unfortunate, of course, that exactly such a path and process, but this soul will incarnate. This is exactly what I was telling you about. The soul knows about certain difficulties and hardships in the future, and to avoid falling, it decides to do so sooner. But soon it will incarnate and will live on. She will live on. As I speak now, her soul is rejoicing. I feel the joy of her soul. I sense it. She is very happy that I can tell you this, that at least someone sees it and at least someone knows it. Because in this world, this is a rarity, a great rarity. Mediums are a rarity, unfortunately. Next question.
Ну, немножко
Let's relax a bit. A question from Ludmila from France. How can I convince my husband to change his mind about alcohol? Lately, he's been drinking for healing, and he says it's his soul's desire. Well, what can you do if his soul is the kind that only sits on a glass? What can you do? How can you convince him? You see, it's his desire, it's his wish, which means he doesn't see anything better, which means he has no other goal, no other interests. The soul will never ask for this. The soul won't ask for this. It's the ego mind that asks, the ego reason, the human mind. But the soul never asks for this. Well, when a person drinks constantly, they become dependent and want a drink. But it's not the soul that wants it. The soul doesn't want it because the soul understands that it has already entered the state of suicide. The soul understands this. The person does not understand this, but the soul knows that it is now suicidal. And now it understands how it will live with all this and where it will go when the time comes to leave the body. So it's not the soul that wants it. As for convincing him, well, let him watch the documentary film The Alcohol Experiment, the first part. Maybe he'll understand something, although it's unlikely, my friends. That's a human desire. Many people say it's a disease. It's not a disease. It's a desire for pleasure. So it's his choice, it's his life, and he is the one responsible for it. And there is also a very good film that might shake him up a bit. It's called I Was a Visitor to Death, a documentary. Let him watch it. Maybe in this film he'll somehow see what people whose soul has been asking for alcohol do, and maybe he won't drink. Do you know how people are coded? Yes, they say we'll inject you with a capsule, and if you drink it, you'll die. No one injects anything. Good psychologists just use fear, they use intimidation. The person is afraid and does not drink alcohol, but it's not because they don't want to, it's just because they are afraid. Like animals. Humans have reached the point of being animals, and you can only work with them like animals through fear, unfortunately. So, the last question, Sergei Arkadьевич, and I'll go rest. Oh, is this the last one? There are so many interesting questions. Okay, let's get to the most interesting ones. Maybe just keep your answers short. Okay. Simbad asks, how many universal laws are there? Can you elaborate? My friends, there are general laws, but not many, and these are not so much laws as ordinal prescriptions, because a law is rigid in your understanding. A law is rigid, it's strict, it's just like that, but in space there is no rigidity, no strictness, nothing like that. There are simply prescriptions, recommendations. I would call them, yes. And I'll tell you more. These recommendations differ slightly from one planet to another, again, depending on the planet's state of development. The creatures living on it, its goals, its status, and the evolutionary processes. Well, that's the first law. Well, not so much a law as a command. Be perfect as I am perfect. This is the Father, the Creator's first proclamation to the cosmos he created. When he created the cosmos, he declared to the entire cosmos, he radiated this program. Be perfect as I am perfect. That is, he prescribed for all of you a development, an evolution that will lead you to a state of divinity and divine self-perfection. So, that's it. The second law, create and thrive. How can one perfect oneself? There are other comments. What are they? Create and thrive. For example, if you create, what does it mean to create? You love everything, you help everyone, you care, you understand who you can help and who you should not, because there is a trend now that not everyone needs to do this. When you do all this, you create the world. What does it mean to create the world? Wishing good for the world, forgiving all people, forgiving all those who are mistaken, who make mistakes, who defame this world. they must be forgiven too. That's called creation. You work. When you cook with love, you create this food, you create this world, and the people who eat this food will also be filled with the energy of creation. That's creation. So, this law, this prescription, is all in the details, it's in every day of your life. The next law, again, I'll return to this law create and thrive. If you create, develop everything, then you yourself will not suffer from it. You will prosper. That is, you will be well, you will have everything, you will live a good life. If you create the world correctly. The next law, let's say, is forgiveness, all forgiveness. When you skillfully forgive everyone, and you can only forgive in one case, when you understand the reasons for other people's mistakes and why they offended you, then yes, you can forgive. And it's when you can't forgive yourself. And once you've forgiven yourself, then you can forgive others too. For example, don't steal, don't offend, don't let down, don't betray. Well, these are, let's say, additional instructions. Well, everyone probably knows about the Ten Commandments. You see, they are not laws but commandments. That is, the Heavenly Father bequeathed them. He offers you these commandments. Well, who will accept them? Who won't? Although everyone knows them, for some reason not everyone adheres to them. Why is it all like this, my friends? Fallen beings, fallen planetary princes, who are no longer princes but rule the planet. They've deliberately mixed everything up, distorted all knowledge, added their own twists to the Bible in various sources, added their own twists to the Torah, added their own twists to the Quran, added their own twists to the Bible, added their own twists to both the New and Old Testaments. They have rewritten everything everywhere. They've interfered with this entire spiritual, religious structure. That's why religion now is not about development, but rather intimidation. That is, it's about frightening people rather than developing them. They've interfered with science, the education system, training, and every aspect of your life. They rule, they dictate these laws to you and force you to live by them. And anyone who does not is considered an enemy, meaning they must do something bad. Well, that's how it is, my friends. I want to tell you that it's not even about these commandments, but about how much you desire to fulfill the will of the Father. And just as it was for me, perhaps this will be an example for you too. For me, an important commandment is fulfilling the will of the Father. Everything in my life, everything I experience, everything I do, may everything, every thought, every moment, every feeling, every emotion be governed by the will of the Creator. May everything be as He wishes, because I know for sure that He always knows better than I do. That's what I know for sure. Therefore, when you live under the prism of the Creator's will, everything in your life will be right. And even that experience, even if it's not entirely pleasant, you will receive it. You won't suffer or be upset by it. You will simply understand everything. And when you understand, accept it, draw conclusions, don't make the same mistakes again, develop and move on. Again, too long? Of course, you can't answer these kinds of questions quickly, and neither can this question, but it's so practical that I think I need to ask it. Alex asks, Natalia Vladimirovna, I come across a lot of materials that place a lot of emphasis on nutrition, saying that those who eat meat, fish, fats, carbohydrates, and so on won't make the transition. Is that true? Or is eating all of that, but in moderation, the right thing to do? Yes, you need to pay very close attention to your diet. Those who primarily drink alcohol and eat meat won't make the quantum transition. Yes, it's true. Well, alcohol, meat, and smoking and drugs, well, I won't even mention them. The people who consume it are already fallen. Although they are the most miserable. So, this is something that needs attention. Why? Because the vibrations of the fourth dimension are higher, which means your organs' vibrations must also be higher, and they can only become higher through proper healthy nutrition. That's why the system has created so many genetically modified foods, so that you don't get the pure food necessary for the fourth dimension, for the transition. You see, it intervened here too. Yes, the Monsanto company, that's what they did. My friends, I want you to understand that everything, absolutely everything, is important for the quantum transition. It's impossible to say just one thing. If you do just one thing, you'll already transition. No, take it all together. Listen again, watch this program. I've given a great deal of advice and recommendations in it. And listen again, consider all my phrases that I've spoken here. After all, it was not me speaking, it was the Creator speaking to you in my words, in my voice. But it was He who spoke to you, not me, who is doing all this for you. And finally, my friends, I promised advice and recommendations at the end of our program. If you want to transition into new quantum changes, into a new frequency, first focus on cleansing your body, cleansing your lymph, and eliminating parasites from within. Focus on nutrition, which will boost your enzymes, especially iron. Iron must be present in adequate amounts. Please focus not only on cleansing your body, but also on physical exercise. You need to activate your muscular system. You need to activate your nervous system, engage in practices, meditation, and if you are unfamiliar with meditation, try prayer. It's also like meditation, but on a lesser level. Meditation is, after all, higher than prayer because it involves working with channels of light, with streams of light that immediately create and transform you. That is, you don't have to wait, you immediately reproduce the process within yourself. Engage in reading the right necessary books. And my friends, water treatments are a must. Be sure to take care of yourself. Also, friends, it's very important to monitor your thinking. Don't allow aggression, anger, or hatred to enter your head. As soon as these things appear, you've instantly fallen into the third dimension, into that abyss of your old past life. Even if you notice a change in your mood, immediately find a reason to lift it. Turn on a good movie, listen to good music, look at life, nature, rejoice, remember the pleasant events and actions in your life. Do everything you can to lift your spirits and improve your inner state. This is also very, very important, friends. And of course, to make all this easier for you, seek your teacher. Your soul will sense its teacher. It does not have to be me. No, my friends, it could be a completely another person, also serving humanity on the planet, faithfully and truly, through the prism of the Father's will. Here are some tips and recommendations for you. Live long, live healthy, live in a new world, create a new world, create a new society, a new race, a new civilization, developed, pure, united by a single consciousness, friendship, and care for each other. Create a world that will lead you to paradise. Thank you, friends. Until next time, I thank the Creator for all the words and phrases that were heard on this broadcast. Until then,